Listeners, my name is Shannon Cooney from Merrick Property Group Real Estate Agency and a very proud sponsor of the Paracave podcast. If you own a property in the Penrith LGA or Lower Blue Mountains and would like to know what it's worth in today's market, give me a call on 0421 588 445.
Broadcasting live from the Paracave. Hello and welcome to another bumper episode of the Paracave podcast. My name is Troy Warner and I'll be your host this week and every week. And today it is episode number 104 and we are going back to the Parramatta Eels and celebrating players, people, fans and members of the Eels over the last 75 years. And today's chat is a little bit different because it's not with a player or a fan, but it is with current CEO of the Parramatta Eels, Mr. Jim Sarantinos. Now, during the chat, we talk about early rugby league memories, including favourite team and players, what attracted Jim to work at the Eels, his biggest challenges he has faced being the CEO, the club's approach to recruitment and retention, the new Centre of Excellence that's coming along, some personality, set of 6 questions, and much, much more. Before the chat, just a thank you to the Eels media and communications team for allowing me the opportunity to interview Jim. I really appreciate it, and hopefully it's something that I can do more of, getting involved in interviewing the players, both men's and women's of the Eels. So once again, thank you, most appreciated. All brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club in the club shop, where for a limited time, a strictly limited time, cases of Jack's Pale Ale are on special for $50 a case. And co-sponsors Shannon Cooney from the Merrick Property Group and the Stubby Club. And listeners, Father's Day is right around the corner, so for the best present for Dad, the Stubby Club has a huge range of sports merch and gifts to choose from. Head to thestubbyclub.com.au and remember to use Paracave at the checkout for a 10% discount. Thank you to all the sponsors. With your support, it helps the podcast grow and reach more people, which is much, much appreciated. But enough of me talking, let's get into the chat with Jim and have a listen to his rugby league story and learn a different side to the CEO of the Eels. So as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax and enjoy, and let's get straight into it. And joining me today on the podcast is a guest who is the CEO of the NRL club that I love, which is the Parramatta Eels, and that guest is Mr. Jim Sarantinos. Welcome to the Paracave podcast, Jim, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks a lot, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Now, let's start off with a bit of a background history, like how was your childhood growing up, the sports you played, the footy team you supported, and maybe some of your favourite players?
Yeah, mate. Look, my childhood was probably consumed by sport, to be honest. Whenever I had any sort of spare moment, it was filled with either playing sport, whether it be competitively or friends down in the park or watching footy, cricket or whatever I could find on TV. So sport was a massive part of my life. I was born in Belmore, grew up in the Canterbury area. And so lived there for the best part of my first 25 years. So
Yep.
Not many people would probably want to hear this, but I grew up as a Bulldogs fan. But it could have been very different, actually. I think the first game that I ever remember watching, I'm pretty sure was the 1984 grand final,
Nice.
where Canterbury beat Parramatta 6-4. And as a 4-year-old kid, I think I probably would have supported whoever won that game. So as it turned out, if the score went the other way around, I might have turned out to be a Para fan, but it wasn't to be.
That's okay. We'll forgive you on that one. Obviously, it's Parramatta now, but who are your
Oh,
favourite?
mate, the blue and white is well and truly out of the veins. It's all blue and gold.
That's good to hear. Who were some of the favourite players that you used to love watching?
Yeah, look, well, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and probably the player that stands out most for me, which is a guy that played for both clubs, was Jim Dimmick.
Oh, yes.
I used to love Jimmy Dimmick. I used to love watching Jimmy Dimmick play. He played such a good brand of footy. He was such a skillful player. When he played for both the Dogs and Parramatta, I think they both played really entertaining styles of footy, good footy to watch. And I think he played a really big part in that. And yeah, I loved watching him play.
Yeah, he's one of my favourites as well. Yeah, champion of the game. Now, just going back, did you find rugby league or did rugby league find you?
Well, I guess as I mentioned, I always loved the game as a kid. Really, really sort of was just engrossed in it, whether it was playing it, mostly socially. I was never very good, but even though I loved it, watched a lot of it on TV. But then, in terms of that translating into a career, I pretty much sort of fell into it, as opposed to sort of going and chasing it myself. So. Yeah, if from a career perspective, I think you could say that it found me rather than I found it.
And now that you're the Eels CEO, has it always been rugby league for you as in a working life?
Well, no, not at all. So, I spent the first 20 odd years of my career working in professional services. So I sort of specialized in business restructuring and corporate advisory and helping all sorts of businesses sort of turn around. And yeah, I did that for about 20 years and really enjoyed that for the most part.
Yeah.
But there was an opportunity for me to get involved in the club back in 2016 when the club was going through some challenges.
Okay.
And I jumped on that because I'd always been passionate about sport. I'd always been intrigued about the business of sport. And I thought I could help the club.
So in a way, that's what attracted you to working at the Eels.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when the club was going through some of those challenges back in 16 and around the salary cap, the firm that I was working for and one of my partners there, Max Donnelly, was approached to get involved in the club and help, I guess, turn the club around and bring some stability to the club. And Max needed a running mate in working through that. And as soon as I found out about it, I sort of went into his office and I said, "You're not getting anyone other than me," because I was really keen to be involved. I'd always had a passion for sport, but never really had an opportunity to work in it. I mean, Parramatta, I saw a club that had enormous upside, that really wasn't performing the way that it should, both on and off the field. And I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to get involved and play a part.
So since 2016, what roles have you had at Parramatta in an admin capacity?
Yeah, so I've had a few roles. So I was on the board for 3 years, up until the middle of 2019. I had, in the sort of 12 months prior, I had stepped away from my from my other work.
Okay. Yep.
Just wanted a bit of a change on the back of some health challenges that I'd had. So took some time to sort of step away. An opportunity then presented itself to move into a management role at the club. So in mid-19, I stepped off the board and moved into a chief operating officer role. And then when our previous CEO, Bernie Gurr's tenure came to an end at the end of October 19, an opportunity arose for me to step into the CEO role.
Yep.
And yeah, I've been in that role since.
And so far, what do you think, do you feel is your proudest achievement as the CEO?
Yeah, I've sort of thought about this question and it's hard to pinpoint any one thing.
Yeah.
But what I would say that I'm most proud of is I think the credibility and trust that we've rebuilt in the club amongst most of our sponsors, members, fans, media, and what we've been able to do in that way over the past few years. I'm not delusional. I know you're never going to keep everybody happy.
Yep.
That's just unrealistic in footy, and winning a premiership or two will help with that. But I still think we've achieved a hell of a lot. And I think we've done that through a lot of hard work from a lot of committed people. Where we've now got a consistently competitive football team. We start every season expecting to play finals footy and then challenging for a premiership. And we're back to being amongst the strongest clubs in the game off the field as well. So I guess what I'm most proud of is how different the club looks to what it did 5 to 6 years ago. The position of strength that we're in, and the fact that we're now in a position where we can focus on growing the club, not just sort of managing it on a day-to-day basis. So that's probably what I'm most proud of.
And on the flip side, what do you think is your biggest challenge?
Look, I think my biggest challenge is probably no different to any CEO's biggest challenge, and that really comes down to the environment that you can create to allow you to attract and retain the best people and get the most out of those people. And in our environment, that's obviously our staff, whether it be our footy staff or our front office staff, and also our players. So as a CEO in any organisation, if you get that right and you've got the right environment where people want to be and they're set up to perform at their best, you're a long way towards running a successful organisation.
And since those 2016 days, memberships have been at record levels. Sponsorship dollars are at a high where every place on the uniforms are sold. We've got the best rectangular stadium in the NRL. We also have an NRLW team as well. What and how can you put that down to since those 16 days?
Yeah, look, I don't think you can get away from the hard work that a lot of people have put in. And we've been fortunate over the last 4 to 5 years that we have had some great stability at the club, both at a board and a management level. So that's allowed people to sort of build on what we've achieved year on year, rather than having a constant sort of revolving door. But all that hard work, I think, has led to that credibility and the trust that we've been able to rebuild, which has allowed us to attract really strong partners and retain those strong partners. And yeah. I'm also really proud of the fact that a lot of those partners are committed longer term, because that talks to the confidence that they've got in the club and what we're doing. We're obviously incredibly fortunate to have the best stadium in the NRL. I'd like for us to take credit for that as a club, but the government obviously very kindly invested very heavily, but that was on the back of the fact that we do have one of the largest fan bases, and you need to be able to provide great facilities for people to enjoy. So I think we as a club and our fans and members have done a terrific job of doing that stadium justice, just by the way of how we turn up and how everyone, I guess, sort of is at their best on a game day, and brings a great feel to the stadium. But I guess the other part that you can't get away from is winning on the field is good for business. There's no way that we can achieve what we have been able to do off the field without having a consistently strong performing football team. I guess we're all very conscious that all we've had so far is relative success, in that we've played finals consistently. We obviously haven't won that premiership, but the fact that the players have done a terrific job over the last few years of playing finals football, playing entertaining football, keeping us in contention, plays a massive part in people turning up. Yep. Our members renewing every year, attracting new members, and us becoming stronger as a club off the field.
Now, you said there about having a strong team. Can you talk about the club's approach to retention and recruitment?
Yeah, sure. So look, our objective as a footy club is to achieve a top 4 finish every year. which, as most of us would appreciate, gives us the best possible chance of genuinely contending for a premiership come finals time.
Yep.
We obviously haven't achieved what we would have hoped over the last few years, but I think everyone at the club feels we're on track for a strong finals run. Managing your roster to be in contention year on year is something that's easier said than done, given the constraints of the cap.
Yeah,
We've got a development club mantra where we look to obviously bring players from within our system and within our junior rep program, but also complement that with external recruits that we think we can develop and grow, which I think our coaching team has done a pretty good job of in recent years. I guess the challenge is that when you get that growth out of certain players and they come to be recontracted, their value grows significantly. And the unfortunate reality is that you can't keep everyone within the salary cap limits.
Yep.
If you've got a series of players who you've contracted 2 or 3 years ago at early stages of their career, where you might have contracted them at 200,000 or 300,000, but they've played a big part in being in a strong team, their contract value is going to double in most cases. And when you've got a series of players who are suddenly commanding, and they're well within their rights to do that, double what they might have been paid in their previous contract, it's incredibly difficult to keep them all. We obviously do what we can to keep as many of them as possible,
Yep.
but the reality is you can't keep everybody. But what our focus is making sure that we secure a really strong nucleus year on year, and then supplement that with talent, with developing talent as best we can. So we've obviously secured a number of our key players in Junior, Clint, Reg and Matto longer term. I think we've got one of the best halves pairings in the comp in Mitch and Dylan, who've obviously been playing terrific footy and I think continue to grow as players. And we obviously would love to have them at the club longer term and well beyond their current contracts.
Yep.
And we've got a number of other younger players who we think will continue to grow. So it's a matter of having that strong nucleus year on year, every year, and putting the right players around them.
Well, Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, mate.
No, you go.
Well, and look, what I was going to say was, obviously there's some other clubs like the Storm and Panthers, Roosters, and some time ago Souths who have had ultimate success in winning premierships. But what I'd say is that the player movement that they've experienced is not dissimilar to ours. And it's just a function of, if you've got a consistently strong team, players they will naturally come and go. You can't fit them all in, and you need to constantly evolve and develop and bring new players in that can contribute to success. And obviously you need to be able to finish that off with a premiership victory.
Yeah, for sure. And now we're talking about attracting those external players to the club. The video of the Centre of Excellence came out the other day and it looks pretty impressive. How beneficial is that going to be, not only for track players, but also the players that are already there?
Yeah, look, it's a really exciting project for the club, and it's important not just for our players, but also in attracting staff as well, and really allowing the club to connect with the community. But, I mean, once it's all said and done, this facility, which will be a $60 million project, will give us probably the best rugby league facility in the country, not just in terms of the quality of the facilities, but also the scale. We'll have 5 NRL grade fields, a couple of which will be dedicated to our high performance teams. And then the others will be dedicated to our elite pathways, but also for community use. We'll have the best in class facilities for our NRL, NRLW elite pathways players. We'll have a match day facility with a grandstand that will be able to host our second grade junior rep games and potentially even NRLW games from. So we'll have a whole of club complex that no other club will really be able to compete with. So being able to provide that point of difference and just providing a world-class facility that our players and our staff will come to every day will not only be a big benefit for the current generation of players, but the players that come through for generations to come. So it's a project that a lot of people have worked hard on. It's a project that the government and various other organisations have showed a lot of confidence in, and if they hadn't, we wouldn't have had the financial support that we've secured. So it's something that I'm very excited about. It's something that I'm very proud of, and something that I'm really looking forward to coming to life over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, definitely. Once it's all completed, it's going to look Very impressive indeed, and a magnificent facility, that's for sure. The 75th anniversary was a great celebration. What are we doing to celebrate our history going forward?
Yeah, look, it was a terrific celebration, and it was great to bring so many people that have played a big part in the club together. Unfortunately, I had COVID that week, so I missed it,
Oh,
which was
no.
disappointing. But look, we're looking really closely as to how we sort of honour the history and heritage of the club. We're in the process of establishing a history and heritage committee, which we'll build out over time,
Okay.
and really look to how we honour that history in many ways, whether it be digitally through honouring our past players and great moments of the club through the club's website, through content pieces that we capture on a regular basis, but also in a more physical base, on a more physical basis, how we honour that history and heritage at our new facility. So we will, in the foyer to the new facility, effectively have a mini museum
Okay.
that will capture some of the great sort of artifacts and memorabilia of the club, but also have a big digital screen where fans will be able to engage with some of their favourite moments. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into that, but it's something that's really important.
Oh, nice. Sounds impressive. Now, speaking of history, is there a push to have at least one of the 80s legends as an immortal of rugby league, or indeed, do you think a legend of the 80s like your Sterlos, Kennys, Prices and co should be an immortal of rugby league?
Yeah, well, look, I think anyone associated with Parramatta, whether you're a fan, administrator, can only really sort of marvel at the achievements that those guys had, both for the club and individually. And they certainly wouldn't be out of place as an immortal. We've obviously seen a strong push for Brett Kenny. The accomplishments of Sterlo, Pricey, Mick Cronin are unquestionable. So I think that they've got every right to be acknowledged as one of those immortals, as the current immortals do. So, yeah, it's something that I think we should certainly see Parramatta representation in that immortals group. That era of 81 to 86 has not been replicated by many other clubs, and we had four of the all-time greats in that period. So I think it would be justice for the club and for themselves if we had representation in that group.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, the last team to win 3 competitions in a row probably won't be done again. Very hard to win competitions. Yeah, definitely one, possibly more, should be an immortal of rugby league, that's for sure. Well, we'll wrap things up with some what I call the set of 6. It's like their personality questions, so a bit of fun
Yep.
ones. What's your favourite sport or sports outside of rugby league?
Oh, look, I'm a sports nut,
Yeah.
and my wife would probably say that I sort of spend too much time watching sport and following sport,
The same.
given that I also do it as a job. But yeah, look, I've loved a whole heap of sports. My passion for sports has probably changed over time
Okay.
in terms of
Yeah.
the sports that I'm really into. I follow the NFL really closely. I'm a big soccer fan as well, but look, I'll watch pretty much anything.
Okay.
I'll watch the AFL, cricket, tennis. Really enjoy pretty much watching any sport, anything that's a contest, two flies going up a wall, really. But yeah, probably the sport that I've gravitated to most outside rugby league in the last maybe 10 or 15 years is probably the NFL.
Okay. Who's your team in the NFL?
I'm a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay. Yeah.
Always have been. What some of the great sort of sporting experiences I've ever had have been going to watch the Packers play in the US. So, yeah, I love it.
Nice. Speaking of watching, what is your favourite sporting documentary or movie?
Yeah, there's a few, but I think as a kid I was a really big basketball fan. Really loved the NBA, and I think grew up in an era where Michael Jordan really transformed sport, not just basketball but sport globally. and really admired him and loved watching him as a kid. So I really enjoyed the Last Dance series when that came out. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but yeah, look, really loved that. Brought back some sort of childhood memories. So really enjoyed that. And then as a kid, there was a series that was actually released on VHS. So I'm kind of showing my age a bit. But there was a Magic Moments series which captured, I think, the 200 best moments of the Winfield Cup.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you ever watched it or if you recalled
I
it.
think I've got it, somewhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I remember spending many school holidays kind of just watching that on loop as a kid. So yeah, that's probably the other. Yeah, I got a fair bit of mileage out of that.
Yeah, nice. What's your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
Well, look, I have to admit, my wife is a very good cook. So
Good answer.
she handles a lot of the cooking. I do enjoy it. I
Yep.
do enjoy it. But barbecue is probably mostly my domain. So nice steak on the barbecue. I enjoy cooking seafood on the barbecue as well. So some salmon, barbecue prawns. Anything on the barbecue. I'd say I'm reasonably handy on. But my wife's definitely the better cook.
Yeah, good answer, and I agree. Same with me.
Yeah.
Now that travel restrictions are sort of easing, when you get the time to go on a holiday, where is your favourite holiday destination?
Yeah, I'd say my favourite holiday destination would be Greece,
Yep.
and it kind of ties into my cultural background. I'm of Greek heritage, and both my dad was born there. My mum's of Greek heritage as well, so I always enjoy going back there and visiting, I guess. And connecting with my heritage. Haven't been able to do it for a few years. But yeah, I've spent many holidays there. But I would love to see more of Australia as well. Probably haven't seen enough of it. I
Yep.
probably have seen more of the rest of the world. So over the next few years, as my kids sort of grow, love to spend more time traveling around Australia.
Nice. What would be the one unique thing people don't know about Jim Sarantinos?
Um, I don't know if this is unique, but I guess probably one of the big reasons why I've kind of found myself in the role that I have is some health challenges that I went through in 2014, where I did go through a three or 4 year battle with cancer. It thankfully came through the other side, but I think what that did for me was it gave me a real perspective on what was important in life. And when an opportunity came up to combine my passion for sport into my work, I think that experience played a big part in me making that leap. So frankly, I think if I'd never had gone through that experience, I probably wouldn't be wouldn't be doing the job that I am now, because I probably wouldn't have made the jump. So whether that's unique or not to me, I don't know, but it's kind of played a bit of a part in shaping where I am at the moment.
It's good to hear that you've rolled out the other side. That's good to hear. And the last one, what's your favourite band or solo artist to listen to?
Yeah, look, I've got a really wide-ranging taste in music.
Yeah.
So my Spotify playlist is pretty deep and varied. But what I would say is that probably the best and most memorable concert that I've ever been to was a Chili Peppers concert in the Hunter a few years ago. Put on an amazing show. Still great performers. I've always sort of loved their music. So it's probably the best concert I've ever been to. But in terms of my taste in music, it jumps all over the place.
Is Under the Bridge your favourite Chili Peppers song?
It'd be right up there.
Yeah.
Great song.
Yep. Well, thank you once again, Jim, for joining me today on the podcast, as I know you're a busy man and I appreciate your time and chat. Keep up the good work at the Eels, and I hope to have you on again after the season, talking about a Parramatta Premiership victory.
I think we all hope for that. So thanks very much, Troy. Thanks for having me.
This is Para, a place of gathering since time began, where saltwater meets fresh, where our history meets the future. The centre of Sydney, the pride of the West, united by the blue and gold. This is paradise. The 22 Eels season and memberships are now on sale. To find your place in paradise, head to paraeels.com.au today.
Well, welcome back, and thanks for listening to Jim and his rugby league story. There was certainly some interesting insights into a few of the behind-the-scenes things that happen at the Eels, along with things that are coming up, and also a little insight into Jim outside of footy as well. Once again, thank you very much, Jim, for your time and chat. It is much appreciated, and no doubt I'll catch you at the next Para home game at CommBank Stadium. Once again, a quick shout out and thanks to Jack's Pale Ale, the fantastic major sponsor of the podcast, for supporting the podcast, and please support them like they support me by buying yours, available in the club shop. Thanks also to co-sponsor Shannon Cooney from the Merrick Property Group. Contact Shannon for all your Penrith and Lower Blue Mountains real estate needs, either buying or selling, and also the Stubby Club. Thank you very much. Don't forget to head to www.thestubbyclub.com.au and order your NRL merchandise today using the Paracave discount code and get 10% off. It's not only NRL merchandise you can get, they have a whole range of sporting merchandise. NFL, AFL, NRL, EPL. So check that website out and just see what type of sports merchandise you can get. And don't forget to use that Paracave discount code. Please support these businesses that support the podcast, that help bring you quality entertainment each week. Share the love on socials as well. And if you would like to become a sponsor of the podcast and get your business noticed a little each week, please feel free to send me a DM on socials or email the Paracave podcast, all one word, at yahoo.com, and we will see what we can do for each other. And come and join the team. Before I go on, I just wanted to do something for a friend of mine who contacted me last week via a message. I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name, but Erin Hillier, who I knew as Erin Walker, contacted me last week about her dad who passed away a few weeks ago now. And the family, they've set up a GoFundMe page, and they wanted me just to get the word out, to let people know that they might be able to help there. I'll put the link on the podcast Facebook page for you to look at and maybe contribute for the family reach their goal. So once again, Erin and family, condolences on your loss, and I hope this shout out helps you reach your goal. Thank you once again to you, the listeners, for listening to Dallas Weston and his rugby league and life story. I really enjoyed listening to Dallas's story, as he was one of the players I watched play growing up following rugby league. But for me, it wasn't a rugby league story I found to be so amazing and interesting, but it was a story about Dallas being reacquainted with his dad after 50 years apart. Absolutely amazing. And I, and no doubt you, wish Dallas and his family all the best for the future. I hope you enjoyed the episode with Dallas, and if you missed it last Monday, just simply head back to the episode list and check it out. Thank you to you, the listeners, for listening and sharing with your family and friends, and please, if you liked it, give it a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform you listen to. It would be most appreciated. It's good for the podcast and helps it grow and reach more people. Also, don't forget to tune in to the Talking Para podcast as well, out on Wednesdays. 4 Para lads chewing the fat about the Eels each week. We review and preview each Eels game each week, and we also make a few predictions as well. We don't often get them right, but we sometimes do. There's the odd chance that we might, but we do a little predictions about the score, first try scorer, and we also give a bold prediction as well. Look, it's a little bit of fun each week. 4 Para lads talking Parramatta from a fan's perspective. So tune in each week and have a listen to that one. And you will also be able to catch me on Pulse FM each week on a Friday and a Sunday talking NRL with the Duckman himself on Duckman's Weekend Sports Wrap Show. I'm usually on about 6:20 p.m. each week on 89.9 FM radio, or it's on the iHeart Radio app. And thank you once again to the official media partner of the podcast, the Parramatta Times. For all your local news, simply head to www.parramattatimes.com.au. Stay safe and warm, depending on which part of the world you are in this wonderful world of ours. Have a great week as best you can, and I'll catch you next week for episode 105. But stay tuned to the socials to see who's coming up next. And once again, if you want to send me a DM on socials, by all means, go ahead. I'm always up for a chat about the greatest game of all and the Parramatta Eels, or who you would like to see come on the show for a chat, and I'll see if I can get them on. And to sign off the show, and as I always say, the Para Cave Podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!